It's everything is all a bit rushed, a bit panicked. Now, in a strange way, it's also going to calm down because of that transfer window fact that we're used to like 3-4 games into the season, you have that mad August 31st night.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit different this time round. So there's this sprint, and now all of a sudden, then it will take stock pretty quickly, I guess.
Well, let's mark people's card on that because they may not be aware of this situation. So you can explain this to us. The official deadline, so transfer deadline day, Jim in his yellow tie and his shirt and all that kind of business.
Well, he'd have to change it now, I wonder.
Well, I certainly hope not. So the deadline is 5 o'clock this Thursday, but that is just solely for English clubs. So the genesis of this is a vote they had themselves last season. They felt it was messy last season with all the coming and going and toing and froing while the football was underway. Yeah,
like felt like it overshadowed the start of the season. And I sort of agree with that point. I do. And I think that led to a decision with regard to... I think actually even managers would have been quite critical of it as well, that it's very destabilising. You start a season with a player that might be wanted by someone else, never mind you wanting one for your team, and then you start the season and then you have these players hanging around for the first couple of weeks that aren't happy and they're gone, and you have to, that international break comes and it's sort of a messy sort of limbo period where you play 3 or 4 games. Like that's gone, so there's a sense of clarity now that the season starts with everyone's squads fixed. I kind of like that, but the problem that the Premier League have is that it hasn't been mirrored in other clubs, in other leagues around Europe. So the big clubs in Spain still are working off the old deadline. The big clubs in Italy are working off the old deadline. So they're under no pressure to get deals done this week.
So the old FIFA deadline is August 31st.
Yeah, and that remains in place. It's just that this was a vote taken by 14 out of the 20 Premier League clubs voted to change their transfer window.
I wonder, did anyone at that meeting say, by the way, next year this is going to put us at a distinct disadvantage with all the European clubs because they may well not follow suit. Whoever that person is, he or she is feeling very smug right now.
Yeah, I think Manchester United went against it, Manchester City went against it, and I think maybe Crystal Palace, Swansea and someone else, maybe Watford. So, I mean, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea were in favour of this move. Now, ironically, Chelsea are one of the ones that could be in a difficult situation that, Courtois is under no pressure to leave to go to Madrid where he wants to go because they've still got a couple of weeks to sign him.
Yeah.
But Chelsea have to replace him by Thursday if they want to get someone of a requirement, and they are signing a keepers from Atletico Madrid seems to be in train. It's just put pressure on them, and normally the Premier League clubs, they have one over on everyone else because they have the financial might. But actually, that's probably been exploited now because the clubs in Europe know that they're desperate. So this week they can charge a premium for on their players and say, well, you've only got till Thursday, and this sort of this games play and this brinkmanship that you stick or twist and you wait till August 30th and everyone's desperate. When it comes to dealing with cross-channel clubs this time, the English clubs don't have that sort of comfort.
Interesting. It's definitely not a fair negotiation table. Personally, says Maurizio Pochettino, I think it's not right in the current situation. It doesn't help. It's not going to help the Premier League or the clubs in England to have the same possibility as another contender because we're going to compete in the Champions League, and to have 20 days less is, I think, a thing that is not going to help you. That's as explosive as Maurizio Pochettino is ever going to get.
That's a guess. I think maybe, I still think it's a good plan, but I think off the back of a World Cup, maybe like every second year they need to look at this. Because as you mentioned, some players are only reporting for duty this week. Like they might be coming back to have talks about their future. They haven't even had time to have that chat. And I mean, in the Courtois case, he just went AWOL.
Yeah,
he had that chat himself.
Just because actually people may not be clear, the real sting in the tail is the fact that the English clubs just can't buy anyone to replace who they might sell. So when you're talking about Courtois, he can leave an English club, no problem. Like, I mean, it's a terrible deal.
Just to clarify, it's just like how after the transfer window last year, I mean, clubs from China were still able to buy players from the Premier League.
Yeah.
Like, the transfer deadline rules are not about players going out, it's about players coming in. So it's when you can stop signing players.
Okay.
And this is basically, the slight dilemma that Chelsea and certain other clubs find themselves in this.
Yeah,
those poor Premier League clubs, give me that small violin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So speaking of small Premier League clubs, Stan Kroenke is set to complete a takeover of Arsenal, is the headline stuff here. So as I understand things, Kroenke, Silent Stan, owns 67%. And it seems Usmanov is happy to sell his 30%. I don't think he had voting power on the board, Usmanov. He wasn't getting a great deal, and if he wanted to actually have a football club as a play thingy.
He needed to chip into the 67% through other backers or whatever.
This will bring up Kroenke to 97%, at which point legally all the other 3% of shareholders will have to sell to Kroenke. So he's going to become the 100% owner, and there's a bit of disquiet about this because that 3% of owners seemingly are made up of fans who care about the club, and also Kroenke's taking out a big, great, whopping loan to do all this.
Does this mean then that we don't have the Arsenal AGM
I think it does.
this year?
Yeah.
There's no more. I mean, maybe Unai Emery's probably okay about that. You know, he's not going to be facing questions from the floor about his substitutions or whatever.
And that is the reason Wenger had to endure that thing every year, and no one else did.
But it was tradition. You know, that was the thing. I mean, you know, somewhere there remains people in English football, mainly the fans, who and the fans sort of based in the country who care about that tradition and it matters to them. Now, like, this is obviously worrying for them because of Kroenke's reputation. Would they be as...
How would you characterise Kroenke's reputation?
Well, I mean, maybe not being a huge spender, for being an element of, again, he's funding it with a big loan that he's taking, which sort of draws parallels with the Manchester United situation in the sense of what's his incentive, his motivation here? Is it to really win things and succeed, or is it just to, you know, run the club? He's got other business interests. It's a very valuable asset, but you know. But the one thing I would say is, though, I mean, about this, I was just going to make the point that would they retain those same feelings? And maybe they would. If they'd been taken over by someone who was taking 100% ownership, but like it was a Qatari sheikh of some kind who was willing to sort of blow everyone out of the water and buy every player because they wanted to win everything, you know, do a Man City style thing. So, I mean, there's a certain sadness about losing the old way of doing things, but the sadness is more so about who the primary owner is now, maybe, rather than the overall change of structure. I mean, maybe that's cynical, but like, you know, football fans, they worry about who runs their club if it seems like they're not going to be like signing loads of players and stuff like that, you know. But you know, there's concerns about transparency, about the accountability. As you mentioned, the AGM is gone. I think there was a good piece, Rob Davies in the Guardian, just laying out various things that will change. You know, the Kroenke's company based in Delaware, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, you know, they don't have a great history in terms of maybe just being hugely open about their dealings and so on. He obviously owns other sports teams and so on.
Generally, also, kind of mid-table mediocrity sports teams.
Yeah, and
that's what Stan kind of likes.
And could Arsenal, you know, as the piece points out, could it end up sort of financing other parts of his empire? I mean, I think he has Colorado Rapids, doesn't he? And the Rams, I think the LA Rams. And is this Arsenal just going to be subsumed into this broader empire?
Yes.
And well, I think yes is the short answer. And I mean, in recent years they haven't been sort of prolific spenders, really, as we know. Although, I mean, they've spent a bit, to be fair.
Yeah. The figures,
the figure isn't the same as Spurs, but
the amounts of money that has been just replayed by the Glazers, well, by Manchester United and their fans, I suppose, just in interest alone is kind of staggering. So, I mean, in a couple of years, we will be sitting here doing a story on just how much they played in interest Arsenal to fund the loan. Like Ian Wright tweeted, I saw, saying this is an incredibly sad day for so many of our fan shareholders that no longer own a part of the club. Imagine if this wasn't only about money, but about the club and the community and the fans. All this new enthusiasm we have with Unai wouldn't feel like such a waste. And look, I guess 3% of the club is not nothing.
Yeah, I still think
the notion that like Arsenal was about the fans and the community up until today.
Absolutely. No, that's the thing. There's no aspect of the top six in English football that is about the club, the community and the fans. It's just not.
No.
You know, so that's my only point, is that there's this, you know, the death of some idealistic club. I mean, those qualities that you mentioned haven't exactly been conducive to a happy environment in recent years.
No.
You know, Arsenal hasn't been this serene and happy place where everyone's pulling together until this has happened.
No,
you know.
True.
So, but at the same time, it doesn't. I think you'd be struggling to describe it as a positive development for them.
One more nail in the coffin of football, Dan.
Yeah.
On the transfer inactivity situation, so I'm going to talk to Pat Nevin later on. Well, I spoke to him earlier because Chelsea are playing a pre-season game against Lyon, and Pat's covering that. So chat to him a bit about Chelsea and how Sarri is fitting in. We talk United, we talk Liverpool as well. Don't talk too much on Spurs. So, like, my last memory of May, feels like about 1985 at this stage, but May was Pochettino signing off by saying Spurs have to be brave, you know. There was this kind of big rally call at the end of last season, and he was saying things like, if we want to be real contenders for big trophies, we need to review things, we need to create dreams, we need to be brave. I think Daniel Levy is going to listen to me, of course, because, you know, he says you need to be brave. Being brave is the most important thing, taking risks. I think this is the moment the club needs to take risks and try to make things work. And so fast forward to August, and it seems they've made no signings.
Yeah, they've not really, nothing of note.
Okay.
And there might be stuff below the radar, but also in terms of outgoings, I mean, there was a feeling that Alderweireld would go. That actually hasn't happened. But I think they were also looking the likes of Moussa Dembele, Sissoko, a few players to even go out. Danny Rose, is the other major one.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened. Now, ironically enough, going back to the point about the transfer window, that Daniel Levy's way of doing things will be very much tied in with that whole stick or twist, wait till the very end of the window and benefit, and they don't have that leverage this time, pardon the pun of sorts. So they, when it comes to, domestically they do, if they want to do business with someone else, and maybe they can use it, Alderweireld, to get more money for him, but it doesn't really address the issue of maybe how you strengthen or replace it. Jack Grealish is one of the players that's been mentioned as a potential buy, and it may well be something that does happen in the next couple of days. But yeah, your general point is about taking risks and doing these things that Pochettino wants. I don't think that's necessarily proven to be the case.
And is it largely down to 850 million quid in a stadium is going to put a hole in anyone's pocket?
It seems to be the case, yeah. It's surprising that you almost think that Premier League clubs are above being troubled by that, because they just have this sort of license to print money, and particularly the top six. But they are a club that has been run prudently, or in a tight way, depending on your definition. And some of the first team players have made that clear that it's, they're not paying market value when it comes to wages. So it's probably not surprising that Spurs are the one club that would be prudent when it comes to something like that. And yeah, it is clearly affecting them in some shape or form. I think that the Spurs have more goal scorers than any other team in the World Cup. I think now granted, a few of them are probably against Panama, but they still have a pretty good squad there. I still think they're going to be very competitive this year.
That's the thing, because
they're not changing,
Real Madrid went to Pochettino twice this summer. And the first time he said, absolutely no way, I'm fine, I've got my contract, now's not the time. And they went back to him again before, trampling all over Spain's World Cup hopes. And again, he said no. So clearly, to some extent, he must have been happy enough with the situation and happy enough with the squad to want to stay. And it was probably fairly apparent to even him then that they didn't have millions to spend. So they'd still do a really good team. Everyone's talking about Liverpool as the most likely to finish second. They will have to fend off Spurs, most likely. Yeah,
and the profile of their better players, like Kane, Eriksen, Dele Alli, they're relatively young.
And they've kept them all.
They've kept them all, and you think a year older, a year better to some degree. So they're not a team that needed huge, restructuring, but they also haven't maybe spent hugally well in recent years. Some of their better signings haven't necessarily been, they haven't revolutionized. They've had a few flops. I'm trying to think of Janssen and a few other players that have come in and struggled. So there was a feeling defensively that Alderweireld was definitely going to go. And I think there was chat about a couple of other players as well that weren't. Rose being the one that we mentioned. So maybe sometimes you stand still. You don't make dramatic changes. You feel that there's going to be an element of turbulence with the clubs that have changed manager, and Spurs have a bit of stability, which could actually very much help them in this on these uncertain couple of weeks. I would hope from their perspective. But maybe January is going to be the real window this year, which isn't normally the case. But it might be a more significant window this year than others. Especially, I think they've changed rules about being cup tied within Champions League and European competitions and so on, which might just change the flow of the January window.
There's somebody texting and wondering, I've sort of seen these headlines over the last couple of weeks and haven't actually just had time with everything going on to click into them necessarily. Just we're seeing Irish players, or Irish qualified players anyway, popping up at Inter and Bayern Munich and all these kind of clubs. Have you been looking into this?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of lads. There's Ryan Nolan, who's at Inter Milan, who's Irish born, moved to Spain when he was 8, and actually grew up in Spain and got scouted by Inter Milan from there. And he's been on the books of Inter Milan, but signed a 2-year sort of professional professional contract with them. He's been involved with their underage teams, and he's been involved a bit in pre-season. He's a defender. You're hopeful that things might be interesting.
Has he played for Ireland ever?
He's been involved in the underage setups, but he hasn't, he's not someone who's been hugely visible in the squads. But I mean, there was talk that at one point that Spain were semi-interested in him, but he's been clear that his commitment is to Ireland. The other guy is
if Ryan Nolan goes on to play for Spain,
yeah, I think that would
I'll throw my pen.
That would be a kick.
That would just be rubbing our noses in it a little bit.
And then there's Ryan Johansson, who he's at Bayern Munich,
right,
with a parent from Mullingar, and there's a Swedish element there. So
it's a long way from Mullingar to Bayern Munich all the same.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in every sense of the word.
And has he grown up in Ireland or?
No, but he's
again probably makes sense.
Through the Irish parent.
As good as our academies are.
Through the Irish parent, and he seems keen to lean that way now, it would appear.
Where did he grow up?
He hasn't been involved in the Irish underage setup at all before now, in contrast with Nolan. Okay. I haven't seen him. I'm not too on top of
he's a centre half
case. It's something that's come up. Nolan is a centre half. I think Johansson is a midfielder, as far as I know. But he's a new one that's come on the scene. Nolan is better known. Now we'll see. You're always wary of putting pressure on the shoulders, and also, I mean, players at Inter Milan and Bayern Munich on the books of those clubs are no different to players on the books of the bigger clubs in England that carry these huge squads, and it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily.
At this stage, being on the books of an English club is more impressive than being on the books of Inter Milan. But it's just the novelty.
There's a novelty aspect.
Dan, I won't lie. I like the thought of Ryan Nolan lining out centre half for Inter.
Yeah,
that appeals to me.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
And he has been knocking about in pre-season, although again it's one of these pre-seasons where a lot of the players at the World Cup are away, so you've seen more young players involved in pre-season. We've had Caoimhín Kelleher with Liverpool, a young goalkeeper. We've had a few other Irish kids that have had good pre-seasons, but naturally players are coming back now, so it can be slightly misleading. Although there is some good prospects there. Homegrown as well. They've grown up here. Troy Parrott been taken on by Spurs, no surprise, but that's a name to watch who is making waves with Spurs, training with the first team. He's only 16. We have a couple of players, but again, they're at that stage. They're heading into a very uncertain period in professional footballers' life.
No. Look, you don't want to put pressure on them, but we need you, and if you don't come through, the future of our football.
Yeah, it just hangs on all you lads.
Yeah.
We're always waiting for other countries to do our work for us, so.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye out for those guys. We'll take a short break, and then Pat Nevin's going to check in. He's been watching Chelsea very closely. Sarri obviously is only about 2 weeks with the players. We'll talk to him about Chelsea, get his thoughts on United and Liverpool as well.
Hi, I'm Mick McCarthy, and I'm second generation Irish and very proud of it. Are you ready for a bit of verbal sparring, eh? What you got for me this morning? What pile of have you got for me this morning? I answer questions on anything, religious, politics, health, sexual problems. And if I haven't experienced them, I know somebody who has. Some people might think that's 2 points dropped, and I say some people can f*** off. Yeah, but I don't give a flying about and slaughtering. I told you before. Did not. It's like, if anybody's not happy, write to me at goandgetyourselffettled.com. Have you come in the red suit and the white beard today, or what? Shall I come and sit on your lap and ask? Does your father know I'll bet?
I haven't told him yet.
I just wonder, do you? Sorry, the keeper's a big tart doing that because there's nothing wrong with it. I said, are you the physio? He said, no, I am the head of medicine technical. Oh, and I said to him, how wide's your door? So can you just put physiotherapist on it like everybody else used to do? And like I say, if I've lost any friends, then they're lost, believe me. I am pleased, I'm pleased I came off tonight, and I'm pleased I was angry, and I'm pleased I shed a few tears, and I'm pleased I kicked that coffee pot across the room, and I'm pleased I feel like I do now, because I know the old feeling's still there. And when that goes, then if that feeling goes, I'll pack it in.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boylesports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boylesports. Time to play.
The Eason Book Club on The Pat Kenny Show.
This month, Eason recommended 4 books for us. The Shepherd's Hut by Tim Winton, The Devil's Half Mile by Paddy Hirsch, Hold by Michael Donkar, and our Eason Book Club Book of the Month for August, You Were Made for This by Michael Sachs. In an idyllic house in a Swedish wood, Mary and her husband are building their new dream life with their young baby, far away from events that overshadow their old life in New York. When Mary's childhood friend Frances comes to stay, Frances barely recognises her old friend Mary, pureeing baby food, baking, living the Swedish dream. But little by little, cracks begin to show in her carefully constructed fairy tale, and Frances starts to see things others might miss. A terrible tragedy unfolds. We'll be reviewing the book from cover to cover on Thursday, August 16th with Mary O'Rourke, Brian Kennedy and Catherine Lynch.
The Eason Book Club on The Pat Kenny Show, sharing book recommendations with book lovers every month.
Do join us and discover more at newstalk.com/Eason's Book Club.
Introducing our new Inspired by Centra range, expertly created to bring you the ultimate in flavour and quality. We've handpicked the finest food producers to make sure every mouthful is extra special. Visit your local store and be inspired. Centra. Live every day.
How do Board Gosh Energy rewards feel? Well, unmissable. Get closer to all the best hurling matchday experiences, knowing you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Take your front row seat as the curtain opens on the Board Gosh Energy Theatre show that sold out months ago. Bravo! And enjoy making great savings knowing that you earn them with Tesco. Board Gosh Energy Unmissable Rewards gives you access to must-see sports, entertainment and amazing savings on your bill and shopping. Sign up now at boardgoshenergyrewards.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back, and I'm delighted to say that Pat Nevin is with us. Hello, Pat Nevin.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Good.
Back from my travels to you from London, getting preparation for my second Chelsea game in 3 days, and it's boiling here. It's ridiculous. It could be worse. It could be Lyon. Well, they're playing against Lyon tonight. It could be worse, and it's terrible over there. But you know, the players have to deal with it, so we can deal with it.
Yeah, it's not been the longest of breaks as summer breaks go. I heard Miguel Delaney was saying elsewhere that he was looking back, and in 2002 the gap between the World Cup final and the start of the new season in 03 was, or in 02-03 was something like 2 months. I think we're getting about 3 weeks here.
It's a bit kind of ridiculous for certain individuals, and we know that Manchester City had a lot of players in the latter stages. Chelsea had 14 players at the World Cup, and a couple of them obviously went to the final. You know, you get Kante there as well as Giroud. You get the feeling it's not going to affect Kante. He's just like not made of the same stuff as the rest of us. But there's so many players who were actually really quite, you know, late into that tournament. And the other thing to remember is guys that played in the semi-finals and then third and fourth playoff, but particularly semi-finals, even if they weren't playing, it doesn't matter. They were having to cope. They were having to work as hard as if they were going to play one of the most important, if not the most important game of their career. So you could say, oh, they didn't play many games. They had to be absolutely top quality, you know, of the fitness. So you're right, very, very short breaks for them. And those who played in, say, the FA Cup final right at the end of the season, again, Chelsea were playing Man United in that one. What a long break it is for all those guys that have done that. What a short break it is for all those guys that have done that.
Yeah. I was trying to think what's the worst part of it. So is it just physically the injuries and the knocks that you carry, never get that chance to recover? Is it just the monotony of pasta and protein bars and milkshakes and just being on, just mentally being on the whole time? Maybe it's none of those things. And of course, I know it depends on different personalities, so I know you can't generalise too much. But I was just wondering, even myself, what would I find the worst part of that kind of a break?
To be fair, they're young men. So to some degree you should be able to cope with a certain amount. So the psychological bit you should be able to deal with. Okay, that's where you're a professional, you should be able to cope with that. The kind of tiredness not on allowing niggles to recover, I think that's probably the one bit that the players don't notice how important it is, because you're playing, as we all say in the cliche, you're never really 100% fit all the time. There's always some sort of niggle, but you get a feeling during a summer of a month, 6 weeks, whatever, you've got enough time to clear them up. Then there's no chance for that now. So you're going to be playing on with those sort of injuries. But in actual fact, it's something I think more subtle than that, again, which players don't realise at the time. Most of these guys will come back and will be okay 2 or 3 weeks into the season, and they'll be absolutely fine. However, come November, come December, have a look at the injuries then, and have a look at the guys who then lose form at that point in time. Because, you can, it doesn't matter how much you pay you can pay me, 10 a week, 10 grand a week, 100 grand a week. But you're a human being, actually, and your body kind of wears out, and it will wear some of them out. And that's the big thing going forward for the rest of this season. The teams that haven't got a big enough squad to cope with those sort of injuries and those sort of dips in form, those are the ones that might actually struggle. So, you'll see some teams start brilliantly this season, but this is a weird one. This is a different one. And I always remind myself more than anyone else, playing in, you're playing in Euros or playing in international games all the way through June, and remembering how weirdly tiring it was, even though I thought I was incredibly fit.
We'll pick our way through some of the bigger teams over the next week or so. I guess Chelsea are a very interesting place to start, and Sarri has arrived. He's only had about 2 weeks with the team. He's spent, as we know, pretty much the entirety of his managerial career in Italy, and Napoli almost did their thing last year and got over the line, but Juventus prevailed in the end. So he's arrived. We've heard Pep Guardiola be effusive about the way he has Napoli playing over the last number of years. David Luiz saying, I love this philosophy of the last couple of weeks. We play high, lots of possession of the ball in a technical way, and he's trying very hard to teach us his philosophy. It is intriguing, just in broad terms, that finally Abramovich has hired a manager who might actually play football he likes.
I think it's absolutely the case, and I kind of don't care how it goes the first 3 or 4 weeks, which might not be great, although Chelsea haven't got the hardest start in the world. I think Sarri will stick by it, and he will keep going for it. I can remember the game last season. I'm sure many of the listeners here will remember it. Manchester City playing against Napoli, it was 4-2, and it was an absolutely phenomenally brilliant game of football. So, he didn't care. He just kept on going for it. He was very, very open. Now, the problem with that is they get beat 4-2 on occasion. They only lost 3 games in Serie A last season. So that was fantastic. So you think, 4-3-3, that's the way. We know the Dutch love playing that way as well. There's one big problem with it. You play every system that suits the people you've got. Now, if this system doesn't suit, and it did suit Napoli players, absolutely down to the ground, and it suited the age group and the specific styles and strengths that they had. But if it doesn't suit this group, then he's got a problem. Then he's going to have to really rejig it. Now, players are adaptable. They can go and change positions. You talk about last year, we'd think Alonso was a left wing back. Well, you've got to be a left back now. Can you do that? Well, you should be able to do that. Will he be as good? We don't know. We shall find out. The centre back, big question there. There've been 3 centre backs for quite some time, but have they got 2 that can work together? Many Chelsea fans will tell you everything changed under Conte when he changed it back to a 3 at the back after a disastrous game up at Arsenal, or a disastrous first half, I have to say, up at Arsenal. So if they've got 2 players there, they've got 4 centre backs at the moment, but have they got 2 that can work that system? We don't know yet. We shall find out. But the biggest problem he's got, and it's an absolute stonker of a problem, you play 4-3-3, so you think of that middle 3. You've got one guy wider, one left, one guy wider right, and the guy in centre. Now, centre guy's pivotal. This is Jorginho. Now, he's a lovely passing player, and he moves the ball nicely. He got caught time and again at Wembley the other day again, because they just basically they rushed them all the time. And someone said to me, and I could not stifle a laugh. Somebody said to me as I was walking to Wembley, hey, Jorginho, great player, playing the centre there. Can't he might have to wait on the bench a few times, eh? No. So you see the problem. You've got to find a place for these people, hasn't he? And Jorginho's the centre. He's an absolute central, give the ball to me in a central area kind of player.
Yeah.
But you don't leave out Kante. So Kante's either going to play right or left, and then it becomes, do you find the balance there? Now, nobody knows 4-3-3 better than Sarri, but I can't see where it works. But hey, it might do.
Okay, so you're going into this with some slight sense of trepidation about that midfield three then. That's interesting. And
I'm not putting fortunes on them getting the top four right now, I'll tell you.
Really? Okay. And then Courtois is going as well. That's pretty much a done deal. He's not turned up for training. Real Madrid want him. He wants them. These things usually end one way.
I wouldn't be surprised if he went, and particularly Sarri has made it clear that if you're not buying into this, I'm not interested in having you. So that looks likely, but they get some money for him. There's every likelihood that they've not spent wildly. Just this one Jorginho, 50 million quid purchase. So there may well be enough money to get another goalkeeper in. Problem is, they want another goalkeeper, but they also do want another centre back. And they've not been able to get that. So we've got a lot of work to do very, very quickly. Courtois will not go unless Chelsea have his replacement in. That's dead simple. That doesn't happen. So that's what Chelsea fans, if they're worried about that, they shouldn't.
Okay. What have you made of Jose Mourinho's demeanour over the last number of weeks then?
What is the French for déjà vu? Honestly, it's just amazing since we've been here. It's extraordinary. And you think, you kind of, when it happened at Chelsea, you kind of want to go up to him and go, going to stop that, please.
Yeah.
You've got lots of good players there. You finished second last year, but he's such a winner that nothing other than the very, very best. And he doesn't gauge himself by having another season second. He's looking across the city and he wants to be able to challenge with Manchester City. And they still don't look as if they're that close to being able to do that. There's a nice analogy going on here. You mentioned Chelsea and you mentioned Manchester United. The analogy is Sarri will not complain at all to the board. Will not play about players coming in, right? But then he might not get players coming in, and that might be his downfall. That won't be the problem with Jose Mourinho. He will complain, and he will probably get more than he would have got had he not complained. So in a way, Jose knows this is a game, and he's just saying, "I'm just going to moan and complain and get on with it." And then when the season starts, or the minute that transfer window shuts, he'll probably get back into it. And he'll probably be a wee bit better than he usually is. Yeah,
funny. Lukaku echoed something Luke Shaw said a few weeks back. Luke Shaw did an interview over in the States and was saying how Mourinho is much, much nicer to him than he is publicly. So he will send him text messages, tell him how good he could be and be very nice to him, and then obviously eviscerate him completely publicly, which is bizarre in its own way. But Luke Shaw was saying, no, he's good to me. And Lukaku is now chipping in as well. Speaking to Business Insider, bizarrely, but speaking to them all the same. And he was saying, I get to see a totally different image of him. He's really cool. He's nice to play for. I get to see a totally different side to him. So he was saying that he'll send him funny videos and send him text messages and tell him jokes. And Lukaku's a big Jose fan. So behind the scenes, he's keeping most of it.
That kind of talks up with what I'm saying.
It does, yeah.
This is for a reason. And the reason is, I need the money. I need the players. And when it's finished, all right, let's go on with it now. And it's not actually that complicated.
Although Paul Hurst in the Times, and this is fairly widely reported generally, so we can take this as kind of right over the last while, Pogba has intimated in discussions with teammates he is unhappy with Mourinho. That one is still just bubbling away very unhappily, and it seems that Mino Raiola is trying to flog Pogba around Juventus and Barcelona. Barcelona seems to have made a bid, 2 players plus the guts of 40-50 million or some kind of player plus cash offer of about 100 million is what Raiola wants. Now Raiola's not doing that unless Pogba wants out, so that still is a bone of contention. That is still an issue for Mourinho to sort out if he wants to sort it out. That's one to watch. I don't know what your hunch is on that.
I'm not always sure that an agent goes in and bats for a player when the player always wants to leave. He'll go in there and bat for him and say, right, okay, and start moaning and niggling a little bit because they want a possible new contract, the player gets more money and the agent gets paid again. Or let's try and hustle for a move. Now look at Real Madrid and Barca, they're both looking as if they need to actually work a little bit in the squads, don't they? So where are you going to go? You're going to go there. Now people say, wow, going to Real Barca. Yeah, but there's more money as well. So, why not? Why not hustle that? Why not, mix that a little bit? It may only come to fruition in a year's time or 2 years' time, but that's what a top agent will do. He's in the business of doing that. Clubs know that. I mean, Mourinho will be sitting there yawning, saying, "Yeah, I've been here before. I understand this. And by the way, have a look at how long your contract is, matey. You're staying here. You're going nowhere if it suits him." So, although that will be going on in the background, if the likes of Pogba did leave, it's only because it suits Mourinho. Absolutely, it's only because it suits him, because he gets a huge amount of money in, and he gets what he wants in the back of it. I actually don't think that. I think he will be there. I think he actually will have a better season this season. I think he's growing a bit. He is a classic Mourinho player, an absolute classic Mourinho player, because he's physique, because he's got that engine. There's certain bits of him that are, he would like to rub the edges off of, but I can't see him going.
Okay. Liverpool then, I'm really interested to get your take on Liverpool. So Alisson's obviously joined Shaqiri at 13 million for a 5-year deal. I mean, that's worth 13 million in today's market. That's the kind of pocket change at this stage. That's worth having. And Keita obviously is joining up with them, who Daniel Sturridge has said after training, "I'm surprised how good he is, if I'm honest. Haven't seen a midfielder like him in a while. He is something different. The things he can do with the ball, he's got everything." So Keita is making a very good impression with his teammates early on in training. With Alisson alone, you would presume Liverpool would be in better shape. So give us your reading where they are. They're being talked about as the most likely team to finish second to Man City, which is kind of where we are ahead of this league campaign. That's the discussion. And I guess the other point is, can Salah do what he did last year? That's the other big question mark hanging over this team.
And can he do it every week? Well, why don't you get someone who is like almost a clone of him? Oh yeah, you have Shaqiri. That'll do. So that's brilliant. That is absolutely superb business. He's so reliant in some ways on Salah beforehand, and when he was injured, and you look at the effects it had in Egypt and that, and it had affected him in the Champions League. To be fair, with this squad they've got now, with these 4 additions that you mentioned, that had they played in that Champions League final with those options, I think they'd have won it.
To be fair, Pat, if you were in goal, they might have won it.
Goal thing's quite harsh, I'll grant you that, but even the rest of the team, you're right. So they could have won that Champions League. Now, you know that Klopp's talked a lot about he's gone back in his word, and he's accepted he's gone back in his word about spending the money, because he's put a huge amount of money into that. I wonder if he's slightly kicking himself, thinking, I wish I would have done that 6 months earlier. We might have one of those big trophies in our cabinet just now, but Liverpool look fabulous now. They're a joy. I mean, you look at the teams who are weaker, who are stronger, who are much stronger. Liverpool were a great team last season. They were a joy to watch last season. And it's not just Mo Salah. Of course it's not. They were a fabulous team all the way through. Loved what they did up front. But you add what they've added there, and they're a real top quality team. And if it wasn't the fact that Man City were so extraordinary, I mean, really so extraordinary, at the game at the weekend there, and without De Bruyne, without Silva, they still look utterly brilliant. And what was really scary, they had a weakness. I always felt they had a weakness last season. People didn't usually get to it, but the weakness was left full back. They didn't have Benjamin Mendy, and he came back at the weekend. Oh my God, that's scary. I've never ever felt it in my entire career that I don't know if I'd like to play against a player. I actually might have felt that about him, because the power, the physique, the pace that he runs at, the time he spends going the other way, you have to track him back. To be honest, that it's horrendous. He's just extraordinary. And if you put that on one side, Walker on the other side, it's honestly scary. And Mahrez as well. I mean, Jesus, you keep on going. So it's to take nothing away from Liverpool to say, I think you'll get second. You'll get a great chance to get second, because City are, wow.
So great. So that is a quick confirmation then that those are the terms in which we're discussing this Premier League season. Who will finish second?
Well, a number of people said to me, and a lot of the thinking is, I accept one idea. Look at all the records that City broke last season. Look at the amount of goals they scored, and you think, can you have 2 seasons like that in a row? And you think, well, teams will find your weakness. I think I saw their weakness. It's gone. It's cleared it. And you look at all the bits of it, and are they stronger than they were last season? Yes, they are. because without a doubt, Mahrez actually helps. He will add something which is absolutely extraordinary going forward as well. So I think they are amazing, and would not be surprised if they do better. Maybe not in points, but in trophies this season coming than they did last season. They are that special. And by the way, I don't know if how many people watched Foden play the other day there. Playing against Chelsea's new £50 million signing.
No, I didn't actually see him. How does he look?
Foden was fabulous, absolutely fantastic. So much so that he'll be in the England squad in 2 squads time, right? So and he's a kid; he's just turned 18.
Yeah.
And there's a bit here that thinks they should have taken him to the World Cup. He actually is that good.
Right. Wow.
He's that good, and in the area where they have nothing, where England has nothing.
Yeah.
So had they taken him with the right, we need to try something different now, because England didn't really ever try anything different in the World Cup. At least they would have had him. He's a lovely player. He's a special player, and if he's like that at 18, he'll be scary at 21.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him this year. Will I see him this year?
Yeah, I think he'll be. He won't be starting every week. I mean, you've got Bernardo Silva was brilliant as well. So you've probably got 7 players in those positions. There's probably only 3, maybe at a push 4, are going to play at a time. But I think there will be opportunities for him, because it's not a case of pushing him in and giving him a wee chance. It's he'll be good enough to play, and he'll be good enough to do something special. Okay,
which means you're fairly ridiculous in that Man City side. I guess, well, we'll watch the first weekend and we'll see how Unai Emery's Arsenal are looking, and we'll talk to you Monday. I mean, it's a sure sign winter's coming home, Pat.
I know. Well, kind of oddly enough, it feels as if there's been very, very little rest. I'm going to a game tomorrow, and that'll be my 4th game in 6 days.
Okay,
so yes,
great.
I'm back into it.
Enjoy these pre-season thumpers. Very good. Thanks a million.
It's gone, man.
See ya. Bye-bye.